All right, the NFL offseason is officially upon us, and one of the biggest stars in the league's future seems to be up in the air. I'm talking about Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. He's entering the final year of his rookie contract, and it seems to be in doubt whether or not he's going to sign a long-term extension with the Vikings. He's put an ultimatum with the team saying he needs to know what the team's future is at the quarterback position. He's been a vocal advocate for Kirk Cousins, who is in free agency now, upcoming in the offseason. And this is big news. There's been a lot of talk about JJ's going to bat for his guy Cousins, but he needs to know what it is. Look, in my opinion, obviously I'm biased. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the league. Dynamic playmaker, just changes the game for people. Only played 10 games this season, missed 7 with the hamstring injury. Still had 1,000 yards receiving on the season. Just goes to show how elite of a guy he really is. Kind of blew up onto the scene as a rookie. Has shattered essentially every receiving record as far as going into the league. Like most receiving yards, second, third, fourth year into the league. He's been totally dominant out there, and he's going to command a hefty contract. I'm expecting him to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. That'll put him north of $34 million, which Nick Bosa got this past year. Tyreek Hill, the next best receivers at $30 million. We're looking at that $35 to $35.5 million per year for Jefferson, which is an absolute steal, I think, for a guy who's still in the prime of his career. He's still very young. You can give him a 5-year contract, and he's only going to be 30 years old when he's coming up on that. You're still going to get the absolute best out of JJ for the next 5 seasons here, and he's commanded that contract. Now, the big question is, what are the Vikings going to do in quarterback? There's been a lot of talk. The new regime in the last 2 years, GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, has been kind of wiffle-waffle on bringing back Kirk Cousins. It seems like he wants to draft his own guy at quarterback. Now, Cousins is 36 years old. He's coming off of a torn Achilles, and you either love Cousins or you hate Cousins. There seems to be no in-between. Kirk Cousins was having a fantastic year before he went down with the Achilles injury. And there's a lot of turmoil what they're going to do. There's some teams out there that are going to overpay for Cousins, which the Vikings cannot do with their cap setup. We're talking about the Atlanta Falcons, the Pittsburgh Steelers, teams that are going to want to maybe pay him north of $40 million. I think the Vikings are more in that $30 million, maybe also $35 million range with Cousins at quarterback. But Jefferson didn't make his demands that you have to bring back Kirk Cousins. That was the stance maybe a year ago, but there's been some talks. He's been some leaking. He's done a lot of interviews this past few weeks. He said obviously he's going to go to bat for Kirk, but he just wants to know, maybe they bring in another veteran, a guy like Russell Wilson for a year, or a Sam Darnold who's a bridge guy, and they go and draft a quarterback at the top of this year's draft. They hold the number 11 pick. There's some guys out there. Maybe you drafted JJ McCarthy, who needs a year to develop. Maybe you don't take a quarterback there, trade back into the first round and get a guy like Bo Nix or Michael Penix at the end of the first round. Maybe a guy who needs a little bit of time to sit, but more of a plug and play guy, but not necessarily a long-term future franchise quarterback. Or maybe they just go buck wild, trade up to that number 3 pick and draft a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May. I don't know, but he wants to know what the plan is at quarterback. And I think Jefferson's earned every right to know what this team is going to do. He's a superstar wide receiver. We've kind of wasted his first 4 years in the NFL, making 0 playoff wins. 0 playoff wins. Now, some people are going to hit back. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They just did it without an elite wide receiver. Yeah, but they had Travis Kelce, who's a Hall of Fame tight end, and he was playing at that Hall of Fame level throughout the playoffs. So you got to have one of those guys at the playmaking position. You just can't do it all by yourself. Even the great Patrick Mahomes needs to have his running mates. And Jefferson's the perfect guy for, if you do choose to go with a younger quarterback, to throw the ball to. You're not going to be paying that quarterback. Throw it to an elite wide receiver. You also have another good young wide receiver and Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson is coming off a knee surgery, so he's going to be out for a few weeks heading into next year. But this is pivotal that the Vikings have to get Jefferson re-signed long-term. They can't have this dragging out into the ether. And on the Kirk Cousins front, I would like Cousins back on a 2-year deal, $35 million. I'm totally fine with that. Cousins has said it's not necessarily about the money at this point in his career. It's about stability. Now, his agent seems to be the greediest piece of shit in the world, and Cousins has taken advantage of when he's hit the free agent market more than any other quarterback in the NFL. But Cousins has produced for the Vikings. I can't say he's been a bad quarterback. The Vikings were in quarterback hell for like a decade until they signed Cousins after they lost Brett Favre for that one really good season back in 2009. It was essentially quarterback hell for this team, but all the chips are on the table. I need to see a Jefferson contract sooner rather than later. The longer this thing drags out, the more I would get worried that this GM is going to be up to his sleazy ways. I am not a fan of Kwesi as the GM. I think it's on the table that he could try and trade him to maybe try and get more picks to move up and go get that quarterback. He seems to be not a fan of any of the players of the previous regime, even though you have great studs from those previous team like JJ, obviously, Christian Darrisaw, another guy, an elite left tackle, Brian O'Neill, your right tackle. You had good pieces from the previous team, but this guy, sleazy Wall Street guy, wants to make the team in his own image. I hope they don't butcher this up. Get this man signed right now, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think JJ's re-signing with the Vikings, or is he going to demand a trade, go on out there, or does he just play out this year of his contract, hit free agency, and just shatter the bank, head into somebody, sign for a $45 million contract next year? Let me know what you guys think. If you haven't already, click that like button, subscribe to the channel. We got new sports content every single day. If you want to support the channel more, sign up for a channel membership. We got new exclusive videos dropping every week for you guys to get access to the extra videos. Really helps support the channel, allows me to keep making this great content for you guys every single day. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.